It's almost impossible to master everything there is to know about music mixing, engineering and stuff as a dawless artist. That's just impossible. But there are things to really sound better, especially while you're performing. Today, I will reveal some of the ultimate mixing hacks. So that's today's video. Are you ready? Let's go do that right now. Hello and welcome, I'm Analog Kitchen and thank you for checking out yet another video. Now if this is your first time here, don't hesitate to click subscribe and hit that notification bell. Whenever I upload a new video, you'll be kept in the loop and you'll not miss out on anything. Stick around till the end of this video, I'll tell you all about Patreon and Discord. I'll tell you about our Kitchen Club event tomorrow that we're doing in close-knit collaboration with the festival De Achtertuin. So there's tickets for grabs if you're in Holland, and if you want to come, let me know. When it comes to mixing, the first thing I would suggest as a practice is to trust your ears more. And if you don't know how to trust your ears, there's a few things on how you can do that. Associative analysis might be one of them, which means you hear something on the radio, you go to your equipment and you try to just like master that as best as possible. Can you get that same sound? If that's a problem, one trick is to go and do sound design on your synthesizers. This is a tip that came out of one of the patrons, namely Danny, on my Patreon page, and he said, if you want to really get into sound design, you want to know what your synths are capable of, and you also want to enhance your hearing, try and create drum sounds, the drum sounds you are willing to use. Try and create them by doing sound design on a synthesizer. So look at a Minilog XD and try and create those sounds. Look at a subsequent 37 or whatever, even if you got like a Model D or whatever, if you got like whatever synthesizer, it should work. Try and create the sounds on there. From the minute you start to really force yourself to listen to what it is that you're trying to achieve, you'll notice that you'll widen your scope into what you're hearing, and that's a very strong point. Now, the music industry dictates a lot of stuff that is near to impossible from us performers. You need to be an arranger, you need to be a remixer, you need to be a mixing engineer, you need to be a mastering engineer. You need to just like be a coach if you've got people that are going to sing on your records, to just coach them on how to get the best recording out there. You need to master all these different pieces of equipment that all need to work with each other. So that's near to impossible. Just being a mastering engineer alone is a lifelong profession. People have studied it and mastered it for the longest of time. So for you to be everything at once in the time span that we have, in the success that you might or might not get, it's near to impossible. However though, it's not unthinkable to look at it from a different perspective. The hack is to chop stuff up in brackets. I already do that with my ABC structure. I build up the music. There's videos that I've done on how to look at the building of the music. Now, the mixing aspect of it is pretty much that same thing. It's also going to be chopped up in 3 different segments, frequency segments. The low end, the mid-range, and the high end. Those 3 frequency ranges should be embedded on your brain. Now, for the nerds out there, it would mean looking at it as a multi-band compressor, almost with crossover points, if that makes any sense to you. Around 20 Hertz to 400 Hertz. That's your low end. 400 Hertz to 4000 Hertz or 4K. That's your mid-range. And obviously, the high end would be 4K and up all the way to 20,000 Hertz or 20 kilohertz. Start working your way from the bottom up. So you first start with the low end. All your low end content is something you're going to look at first. Now there's another thing that I always say, mixing hacks. For mixing, you'll need equalizing. And that's what you would do if this would be a tutorial for you sitting behind a DAW, working with all these different plugins. I am a firm believer that you don't EQ or compress stuff on a live active. There is no need for it. That's the way I work it. But then it becomes very apparent that you need to listen to what does what. You have to prioritize which sound is the chief and who are the Indians. How does this work, this relationship? How does the hierarchy work and what you need to hear? Note placement is important. Where do certain things sit within the mix? Now I'm going to look at a track and I'm going to just like chop it up into segments on how I think that these things work and why they interrelate. This is something you need to listen to on great speakers. It does not work if you're listening to this on a phone. Yeah. Now, if you would follow these tricks, I'm not saying that after this video you'll be like Bruce Swedien or you'll be like Manny American or whatever, but you will get the gist of why your sound can be enhanced, because you would like to sound great wherever you go, because every venue is different. Whenever you get to one place, it's a different engineer, it's a different acoustics, it's a different vibe. Your ears are different, whether you're tired, hyper, or whatever. All these different things have an influence on the way the end result, the way the sound is going to sound. Anyway, so what you would want is to be stable, to be consistent. And that consistency is something that I've worked on a lot of years, and I can say now that I'm not mastering it, but I'm 80% there, so most of the time I won't screw it up too much, you know what I mean? Then there's also the MIDI levels that can vary sometimes. Sometimes you throw in a synthesizer, it'll come out loud. Another trick that I will tell you is to save your track and work on another track live, because levels will change. So there's a difference. I understand that there's a difference between the live situation, the studio situation, the analog mixing, and the digital mixing. Those are 4 different things in themselves. So we're all going to combine these things together. Now, if not anything else, I'll take you over to the live set and let's see if I can show you on how to look at different mixes. All right? Let's do it. Keep in mind, I'm not trying to win any Grammys with what I'm trying to show you today. It's just one loop of my live set. It's something that I did record while playing it, so if you've never heard this before, it didn't exist. I was jamming it out, and this is something that I recorded on my MPC, so it's cool. So the sequences are coming from the mini tower and are coming from the subsequent 37. Now, if this is your first time here, let's explain what I've got in the box. I've got like the MPC Live as being the heart of the operation here. So all the long MIDI notes or the MIDI information coming from the XD or from the subsequent or from the Tetra here or from the mini tower are all going to get recorded on the Akai MPC Live. Why do I love it so much as a brain? Because of the musical aspect of it. If you make loop-based techno stuff, then you can debate there's different sequences like the 1010 Black Box or the Octatrack Mark II right here that do a different thing. But if it's music you're making and you want to do longer passages, or your sequences need to be slightly longer, I think that the MPC can be very amazing. It says 8 bars here, but you can go all the way up to, you know, oblivion. So one pattern can be 103, 128 bars, I think is the max. What is it? I'm sure, no, it goes on forever. So you can imagine how long you could actually play one sequence for, which ideally means you could stick whole tracks in there and have them work. However, for today's example, I'm using only 8 bars. Yes, that's what I'm using. So that means that the sequences are going to come from here, MIDI sequences, as well as some drum elements, but those are my B category drums, not my A category drums. My A category drums are going to come from the Octatrack. So let's start first. If we have to dive into how we're going to set this stuff up, let's think on these 3 different frequency ranges that I explained to you in the intro, meaning the 0 or the 20 hertz, the 400 hertz segment, which contains low end, right? It contains bass, it contains the bass drum, so let's start with that. I've got those 2 connected, by the way. The acid boxes does something else, we'll get to that. So, a kick drum. My kick drum is sitting on track number 1. Yeah, it's also track number 1 on the Octatrack, so that's my kick drum. I know with my right hand, kill it here, left hand, kill it there, or where I am. I've got the subsequent 37 sitting right there at the moment, and it is doing something already. So yeah, let's see why we're not. Nice. Cool, so I need to look where the sounds were first. Okay, this is something that when I'm in a jam and I'm grooving, I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm getting into the zone right here. Let's play something. And so then I'll play something with the subsequent. I'll filter this down. Now the trick to get something going is the association between certain sounds. As you can hear that the attack transients here, that's you know, if I'm turning the envelope generation off, you don't hear it as much, but I love envelope generation on my bass sounds because now it starts to become that percussive attack transient that works together with the bass drum. Now this is the initial part to get your mix really pumping, because if there's some sort of a envelope generation, which I would explain as pronunciation or articulation maybe, on the sound, if that makes any sense, those things, you'd like to have this work together with the kick drum. And the layering of the sound is that when I'm turning it down, now the kick drum is very dominant because I've turned it down considerably. Please look at the EQ, everything is flat, you know, I'm not EQing anything. You could debate to say like, let's stick low end here, but it's taking a lot of energy away, and it immediately starts telling you you're in the red. So I'll try to stay away from the EQ as much as possible. And I would love to debate that if it's some sort of more of a budget desk, or they probably spend a lot of money on the preamps to make the microphone sound great and not so much on the EQ. So if you've got expensive synthesizers like the Subsequent and also the Octatrack taking care of business, you might not enhance the sound by using EQ on a smaller board like this. So what I'll do is I'll level it. So I'm trying to look at levels here. I am monitoring mildly now. So I'm thinking, okay, this sounds cool. Yeah, this is a good, great foundation. I still got a lot of range on the bass sound. Open it up. And to know if you are in the right spot, if I open up the filter and there's more sound coming through, you should still hear all the bass drums. So know that you hear the bass drum becomes dull or something, going from wah, boo, boom, wah, wah, boo, boom. If you hear that and you can't hear all of the kick drums clearly, that would mean that some frequencies are masking or overlapping, which can help sometimes if the crossover point is correctly, but the more the crossover point starts to shift towards the dominant frequency, or towards the fundamental of the sound, it starts to cancel the sound out, and that's not where you want to be if you want to enhance your mixing. So mixing hack number one is get the articulation of the bass sound to mimic a little bit of the attack of the kick drum, yeah, so that both of them do this pulsating kind of vibe. That is something speakers in a club love. So, and it becomes a louder sound, so louder equals better for most people on the dance floor. So that's also a lot of gain that you have right there. So as you can hear, there's a lot of velocity jumping with this sound. It's not so much velocity jumping as it is LFO going up and down. So you can hear LFO doing that. Okay. Another sound to add is a theme that I've played with a bass sound again. So this Minotaur is usually my bass synthesizer, but in this jam it turned out differently. I had played the track that I was already playing, and I thought like, okay, cool, let's try and play a lead from a bass sound. And I have to say though, usually, it was something that I've not done now, and I'll do right now, if I'm not screwing around with the hub, is I'm going to add my effects in there as well, because there's a send on here. So, and I'm going to use the send also, then you'll hear, send is sitting right here. So now we've got a bit of a space thing going on. Don't use too much reverb and delay, because you'll drown out the sound and make the initial transient that you did over here with the envelope generation, you'll make that longer. And the longer the transient is, the less of a pronounced sound you're going to get. Filter this down, get out of there, get off a different page. So. Nice. Now I love the fact that I've got my reverb sitting right here, so I can dramatically enter it in or take it out. So I love to do that on the fly, depending on what is needed when I'm performing. Now I've got more drums, so I've got this. This is a sound that I also love. It's round, it's a bit of an organ sound. Now, this also sits well within the mix. You can debate to filter it down, or say like, you know, that's a... So I'm trying to look for a sweet spot here. It's now on 75, you know the octave track. It means that 0 will be nothing and 127 would be the biggest amount. So out of the filter I'm using 75, which means it's going to sit at a moderate level. You'll hear it, but you can stick stuff over it in order to enhance the sound. So more drums would be... Deliberately, this shaker is not as loud and not as high. So I didn't want to go overboard with completely sticking those frequencies out there. I know that I'm jumping ahead of the situation because we're still in the low end range, but as a ballpark to see if I'm in the right spot, I will just like listen to it like, okay, it's okay. Cool. Now let's go for the bass line again. Turn down a little bit of that reverb here as well, because nice. I'm liking that. So again, leveling. This is going, yeah, it's going well. Now that I know that that's working, I should go for that mid-range like I said. Mid-range is the next stop. So that's between 400 and 4K globally. Don't pin me down on that exactly, but just to know where's my low end, where's my mid-range, where's my high end, right? So now this is more of a high-mids kind of vibe than a high-end kind of vibe, because I do believe that in a club, things get bright and exaggerated very fast. So I'm trying to go in moderately to make sure that it sounds the way it sounds. And it needs to be a jigsaw puzzle. Everything needs to just like fit into the next sort of like level. So the kick is working, the bass line is working, that little stabby organ thing I've got on 70 is working, and everything should interact, right? So if I take out the drums, for instance, like so. You can hear that both of them, the bass sound and this organ step sound, they're some sort of related. They have the similar characteristics, if you will. Now, if I was to use an EQ that I'm not using, but just to exaggerate, you can hear not much happens if I'm using the high-end frequency, but if I'm using the low-end content, all of a sudden you hear different things happening. Now it becomes a little bit thinny, and I need the two sounds to work together. So a crossover point would be that the low end here is going to get embedded on some sort of that low end sound here. I don't know exactly where they'll meet, but they'll meet each other somewhere. So which means that lowering this, and because there's an LFO which is also getting triggered, but it's going up and down on the bass sound, if you can hear, that LFO is also making this pattern come alive a little bit more. So that does a thing within the mix as well. Now I can stand here and be like, oh, I'm so cool because I don't mix anything. Obviously, if there's a frequency filter involved, that could be mixing. Obviously, this is going to be a higher frequency than this, so initially it does the same thing as me opening up highs, but for some reason this is a set it forget it kind of vibe, and you build up gradually. If you set it here, it's very yeah, that's what it is. And here things can change with subtractive synthesis. Obviously, that's the whole point with dance music. So yeah, I think that works. So opening the kick drum up, you see that there's nothing engaged. So I'm going back in with the drums. Now, I have got this landscape in my brain where I place things against a backdrop, and it needs to be spaced out. So watching a movie, it doesn't make any sense if the lead person would stand in front of the camera, because then you cannot make out what's happening behind that person, behind what is happening. So in order for you to get the gist of what the scene is, what you're watching, this is also how you should look at the mixing and look at the soundscape of the sounds that you're doing. When I perform, I tend to go in and I tend to gradually build it up in a logical sense for myself as well. So I'll first play the kick drum and the bass line, then I'll gradually start to add more stuff to it, but in a logical sense so that my brain can also comprehend what's going. Where are we going? Where are we headed? Now this is the mid-range. The mid-range sitting here, quap, boom, cut. Using this, what is it? Is it a clap? Is it a snare? I think there's a clap that's filtered down on top of a snare. I'm loving it for this kind of sound. So and this works wonders on a big sound system. Less is more most of the time, you know? So using that shaker instead of just like the crazy hats. There's another loop here. Let's see what it plays. Yeah, nice. Does the trick. So everything is working together. And it needs to just fit like jigsaw pieces. It needs to fit into each other. If you, for some reason, are struggling longer than 5 minutes to get a sound into the mix you already have, just leave that sound alone. Find something else, because if you have to struggle to get stuff in there, it's probably not going to work. Now, of course, within sound engineering, there's a lot that you can do when you're sitting behind a mixing desk, mixing board, or you're sitting in front of your computer with plugins. And the rule is obviously the more sounds you use, the more you have to just look at the cue points of the EQ, because being very narrow, because you don't want to have all these different bells going, because then you're just going to flood out the 20 hertz to 20k, which initially means there's a lot of energy in the track happening that speakers cannot reproduce, so it ends up with your track being softer than other tracks. If that's a problem that you run into sometimes, you might look at how much information is in the track. I see people stacking bass drums and a top kick there and another top kick here, and if you're not making any hardstyle, then why would you be focusing on having so many different elements on your kick? You know, get a good kick that works. I think that this one works. You can debate like, what is in this kick already? There's a lot of fun things happening in this kick if you will listen to it. There's the letter T as an attack transit. Tick, 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 tick. There's something hanging off the tail. So there's a lot that's possible with this kick. I think that in itself, as I most often do, I get for my live sets, I get a kick to do a little bit more than I would usually have on a track. When I was mixing this on my computer save as a release that needs to go on Beatport tracks or whatever, I'll probably use a kick like this. Take out low end, I mean. And maybe 3-4 dBs. I'm not even sure on what frequency it is right now, but I'm just taking that off. But for a live set, you would want to feed that woofer something, give it something to eat, because the natural compression that happens on a sound system is also something that people will perceive. This will work because of the bigger kick, a little bit more low end, a little bit more mid-range, a little bit more high end, so that if you encounter a sound system that doesn't really work that well for you, the leveling can be where your mix stays within its same balance, instead of you having to just like completely go in as an engineer and start to just do that stuff on the fly, while you would want to be working your track instead of having to work the sound. Leave that up to the people, the professionals in the room. And if you're in a room that they don't know what they're doing, you should ask yourself, why are you there in the first place, right? Okay. Now I'm trying to just like get a little bit of a vibe going with this track. Boom, 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 boom. So the drums is something that I look at from a point of view like, okay, do your own vibe, do your own thing. And if that works, that works. Then I'll add stuff to it that should complement what is happening. So yeah, this coming from the MPC, this is where the high end is, as you can hear. So this is more of a high mids kind of vibe, going up high enough, but then 808 closed, as you can hear, with a little bit of a attack transient there, so I might have bit crushed it a little bit, as I can hear, which means that, you know, the bit depth gets deteriorated a little bit, but it gives a little bit more character as an analog synthesizer or an analog desk would also bring to the table. This is something you need to do with the boxes that you have. They just don't do it on purpose. Back in the days, you bought a box for its character, for its sound, which usually means some sort of a harmonic distortion. Now you have to just do it yourself, or at least try and recognize what it can do, and that's how I work those sounds. So this works together neatly. Again, no EQing here, no EQing on the sounds. See, it works perfectly with this kick. Now, add the bass. And do you see how I can add stuff to it without me having to worry about is it going to sit well in the mix? Ooh, delay. And the more I add, the more it intensifies, but at the same time, the more it'll make sense, you know? Kick out, 2, 3, now, go for the clap, or snare, what is it? Nice. And that should work, and then that organ chord in major and the rest of it playing minor. If you've noticed, it doesn't really go together, but for some reason it works out. So yeah, but you know, that's how I probably work it. Take out the 2 Mogs and just stick on that kind of housey vibe. And believe you, this thing works so well on the dance floor, but I was very much pleased with the way the sound was. Because it has that push, it has that going, it has that growing thing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. How I can explain to you how these mixing things work. So, in short, see if you can build your track up from the ground up. Basically, kick drum, then take out everything that doesn't need to be there. So the snare drum is here. Low end, mid-range, working first. Another low end content thing, go. Do I hear everything? Is everything still audible enough? You can stress that snare is a little bit on the loud side, but it works with the drums. Once you know that that's happening, get a little bit of a high mid thing going. And you have to debate which is the boss. Not everything you stick on your music needs to be that, oh, I found this best loop ever and everybody needs to hear it. The best tricks is, if you hear something you like, turn it down, you know what I mean? The best things you find and the things you love the most, you have to turn them down, because I can always hear if somebody likes something on their mix, because they're always exaggerated by turning it up way too loud. This you will only miss when I turn it off. but after a while you're not listening to that because it's all stationary, going in a certain direction. So placement and arrangement are also very strong pointers to get your mix enhanced as well. So all these things add up to a better mix. So it's arrangement, it's song selection, it's note placement, it is the leveling. All these things need to interact. You don't have to master all these things at once, but they're all very important to at least know what is happening, right? Nice. And I build it up by not giving away the high end immediately, because now I still have a lot of attention and a lot of suspense that I can add. Taking out the kick, now the high end from the MPC is coming. I do think that this is a well-balanced mix. I think this could work. I think that this would work on the dance floor. So let me know how you work your stuff, and don't be a stranger, like and subscribe. I'd like to welcome Dieter Juppie. Thanks for the mixer, by the way. Dores and Gary Parker as new patrons for this week. They'll follow it on patreon.com/nlokitchen, where you won't be breaking the bank. It's a support platform. And like if you watched last week's video, which I'm going to probably link somewhere in the fold below, it's a cool environment, it's a cool community, and if you want to make some music with me or you want me to enhance your tracks, that's something that we did. So last week's video was an example of that. That somebody, Brad F, sent his stems over to me. He filmed how he did his track, and then he wanted me to just like enhance it, or at least like look at it from a different perspective. If that's something that you like, if you get some value out of these videos, then that's a cool way to get in touch with me and with the community, because we've got the community bridge from Patreon over into Discord, and we do talk shop, we do talk synths, we do talk a lot of stuff. So that's absolutely amazing. So do follow it on patreon.com/nlokitchen. Tomorrow night, if you are watching the premiere, it's going to be tomorrow night. If you watch this on Sunday, the party's already done. But if this is you being clued on, being the early adopter, and you watching the video right now as it premieres, it means that you as a patron get free entrance to the after party that we're hosting together with Festival de Achtertuin, Backyard Festival. Now, that festival is going to be amazing. There's going to be Oliver Whiter is going to be there. There is going to be Mitch Klein is going to be playing. Susan Wright's going to be playing there. So that's going to be like melodic techno/house. Everything together. Benny Rodriguez is playing. I think Secret Cinema is playing as well. So it's going to be a cool thing, which is not common for the area that we're in Rotterdam. We're mostly like banging techno, and this melodic techno kind of melodic house kind of vibe is new. So this festival is going to be new. It's going to be cool. I'm resident there, so I'm very happy. And if you would like to come to the after party that we're doing as a Festival de Achtertuin X Kitchen Club event, which we're doing in Worm in Rotterdam, which is going to be the biggest one yet. 2 rooms with DJ Silly playing and a lot of other people playing. It's going to be an amazing thing. So if you want to check that out, do come check that out. Yeah, so patrons got free admission. I said it before. You bang in the door, so I'm not going to say it anymore. Cool, thank you for watching. This is just like my hack in terms of the mixing aspect of things. Anything unclear, you know where to find me. And if not anything else, I'll probably catch you next week. You know where. Keep watching this space on another video. I'm Nl Kitchen, and I'm out. Peace.